Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. And in this episode, we're headed to one of my most favourite rounds of the year. It is the Hobie Gold Coast round held on July 13 and 14 of 2024. This one was sponsored by TT and a couple of interesting results. Luke Rogan in first place, Gareth Goodhue, so last year's winner, narrowly missing out, and Mitch Madison in third place, just beating Jack Gammie, which made him very, very happy. In any case, I'm going to roll the intros and we're going to get straight into it. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. This is where you need to be every Tuesday to find out all the latest tips and tricks to help you target bream on lures. You'll get to hear from some of Australia's elite bream competition anglers and see how they were able to achieve their results in competitions around the country. Now, here's your host, the 2019 Hobie Kayak Fishing World Champion, Andrew Deeth.
All right. So like I said, one of my most favourite rounds of the year, and that because it's the middle of winter, it's cold in Sydney, yet we head up to the Gold Coast and it's beautiful. We can put shorts and T-shirts back on and have a great time. All right, let's get through some of the housekeeping. So as you are all aware, I've opened the Bream Fishing Collective. So this is a subscription part of the podcast, which you can jump on board. You can get early access to some episodes and a little private thing we've got going on with a monthly or 6-weekly catch up. And we're all learning how to target bream a whole lot better in an organized fashion. So if that sounds like something you want to do, jump on board. The links are in the show notes for this episode. Wherever you play this, if you just look at the description, you'll be able to click a link and go straight to the sign-up page, as well as on Instagram and the other one, Facebook. Okay, so let's just go through a few things for this competition and we'll get into the angler interviews. So first up, let's just do all the rounds. So the big bream winner went to David Shanahan. So he caught a 1.21 kilo fish. So I was with him or near him when he caught this out fishing the reef. It wasn't a great competition for me. I decided after several rounds up there of not doing well, I'm just going to sit on the reef and just grind it out. And anyway, I don't know what to say. It just didn't work for me. Well, I got a few fish, but nothing decent. And then David Shanahan rocked in from nowhere and dropped a 1.21 kilo fish in his well, which bumped him right up the top, which was pretty cool. Monster Mover went to Adrian Barber, flying in from Western Australia with 0 on day one, backing up with 1.62, which is a good bag on the Gold Coast. The women's angler went to Ruth Beebe. She smashed it with 2.47 overall. Masters was once again David Shanahan. And this is a very cool thing. So the first time competitor went to Tristan Barber, which is Adrian's son. So good to see those two together. And yeah, great little result for both of them. And as far as the tides and bite periods and what have you, this Saturday we had 16 in the fish activity wheel, which is pretty low. The minor bite period was at 10:08 through to 11:38 a.m. Low tide at 7:06 at half a metre. High tide at 1:30 p.m. at 1.28 metres. On the Sunday, in terms of the fish activity, was a worse day at 10, just 10 in the fish activity wheel. Minor bite period at 10:35 a.m. through to 12:05 p.m. with a low tide at 7:48 at half a metre again, and a high tide at 2:32 p.m. at 1.33. All right, so there you have it. Let's get into the angler interviews. Here we go with Mitch Madison. All right, so first up in third place, we have an angler dropping 1.95 kilos on day one with his 3 fish, backing it up on day 2 with another bag of 1.6, giving him 6 fish for 3.55 kilos. Beating the world champion by just 60 grams, I've got Mitch Madison. Welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, Deethy. Thanks for having me again.
No worries at all. And as I said in the intro, mate, you would be cheering about just giving Jack a bit of a touch-up.
Oh, mate, one of the boys had to get the wood over him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to fit his head in the car on the way home.
Yeah, we were all worried about it.
I wouldn't have thought.
Oh, very good, mate. It should be said for those who don't know, you guys are the best of mates, and it's always good to beat your mate.
Oh, I only go to the comps to sort of beat 2 people, and it's Jack and it's Grant Oliver, and that's it. The rest of them, I don't mind if they flog me, but as long as I can get wood over them, I'm pretty happy. It's all about bragging rights.
Very good, mate. Well, you've certainly done that, mate. And I think you're having a good year, second time on the show. So, mate, Great start to the season.
Yeah. Oh, no, not mine. It's my first one this year, isn't it?
Oh, maybe it was late last year.
Yeah, late last year. I grabbed a second behind you, and then early last year maybe. And then I think Grant pipped me by a couple of grams the basin, and then he grabbed third there.
All right.
I've been close, but no cigar this year.
Yeah, but did you get a grand final spot in that round earlier this year?
Yeah, sure did. Yeah. So that took all the pressure off for the rest of the year, which was good.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Let's get into the fishing. So we're up on the Gold Coast. Now, I know you're up there for the Friday, so tell us how your pre-fish went.
So pre-fish was a non-event for me. Unfortunately, Jack and I decided to celebrate his win over in Canada, and I think we got home at about 4 a.m. So we were a bit dusty for pre-fish, but after living up there for a little while and everything, I sort of had a game plan of where I wanted to go, and it was the same as sort of Jack's. We got a bit of a milk run that we run regardless, and being Queensland, the structures generally hold fish, and if there's current, there's fish there as well. So we decided just to lay around and do nothing for the day, and then I guess it leaves the water clean for the following day anyway.
Exactly. All right. Well, mate, based on your results, you had a really good day one, just under 2 kilos. Give us a bit of an idea about how you went about catching your fish.
So I paddled straight south, headed to sort of down near across the road or across the river from the the school there. There's a couple of pontoons in the running water, and I stopped in there first up. The 2 end pontoons I like hitting, and pulled a 31 tipper first cast.
Wow, good start.
So pretty happy with that, and then just continued. I kept heading south from there for another few k's to sort of up to the next sort of island section up near, I think, Chevron or whatever it is down there, and towards the entertainment centres, and then just started hitting the pontoons along there. I think I had my bag by 7:35, 7:40.
Really?
Nothing special, but just a bag of sort of 30s, and then that 31, like just tippers. But just sort of feel good from there. So then we just sort of kept, Jack and I were just fishing together, sort of just jumping pontoons and just having a laugh as we went.
Right.
And just I think we went past one of the next bridges, and I flicked up behind the pontoon up towards one of the poles, and I pulled a 36, I think.
Right, nice fish.
From in there. He was pretty generous to me, so I was on just running 3 pound. I didn't think I'd get him back out, and it literally just swam out, jumped in the current, got in the shadow of the kayak, and I just netted him. It was really simple.
Wow, especially for a good fish.
Yeah, sort of come out, had a few head shakes, and just let out, and then started fighting when he was in the deep water, so I was pretty happy. I think from there we just kept going all the way down, around a few more bends. I think by this stage we're probably 6 or 7 k's south.
Yeah, right.
So you were about 7 k's south by this stage.
Wow.
But we did the same thing all day. We were just throwing sort of gulp shrimp and what else were we throwing? That sprats, the new Daiwa, what are they, like the
flick?
I can't remember what they're called now, like the wave tail or something like that, whatever they are. They're sort of like a same
minnow,
profile as the sprat sort of thing, very similar. So they were working all pretty well. And that was the game plan all day. I just hit pontoons in the flowing water, and then pushed home at about, I think, 12 o'clock. We left down there, and it took us, a good hour and a half, hour 45 minutes pushing to the current to get back up to the finish line.
Yeah, right. From there, that's a hard slog, mate.
It wasn't fun at all. I was in agony. By the time we got back to the last bridge, coming out into the Broadwater section there, I was in all sorts of trouble. It wasn't fun at all.
Right. Okay.
I was hunched over in the seat and just hoping for the best.
Right. Well, there you go. And I think you would have been into the current, into the wind.
Into current, into wind for the whole way home, which, I don't recommend anyone who wants to come on that loop next year. I probably won't do it.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Unless Chris gets some better tides. Yeah, geez, it's a long way. And day 2 was even harder, doing the same loop, and we pushed even further. So
yeah, it seemed to flow a little bit harder on the second day.
Oh, didn't it, Joe?
Yeah. But mate, let's go back into the fishing a little bit. Did you spend most of your day on 3 pound?
I spent all weekend on 3 pound. I am one of the silly anglers who will fish 3 pound almost year round everywhere we go.
Right.
I'll throw 3 pound just about anywhere, and only Foster will I realistically go to maybe 5, and that's about it. I'd sooner get the bite and then worry about everything else later.
Yeah, mate. There you go. And, mate, when you were charging, so using predominantly plastics, how are you working it? The current would have been against you.
Yeah, current was against me. So I was which sort of helps. So we're fishing into the current all the time. So then I'll just come up behind a pontoon. I'll hit sort of the corner out on the front, like the rear corner, and then I'll hit the inside corner. And then as I get closer to the pontoon, I'll throw probably 2 meters past and let the plastic just drift under. And then generally by about halfway, you're pulling up the slack and winding up onto a fish, which was pretty much what I had all day on day one. I was the lucky one out of Jack and I who was I managed to get the bites on the pontoons we were fishing. I was the lucky one between us. I got the bites on day one where Jack wasn't, and then it flipped on day 2.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And look, so if you were targeting the bottom 2 corners of the pontoon and then drifting under the middle, was there a pattern to where they were?
To be honest, most of the bites were coming from out the front of with the cloud cover and the wind on that day one. A lot of the bites were coming across the front of the pontoon. So it made the fishing a lot easier. You didn't have to really throw your lure up into spots you weren't happy to know where you mightn't get it back. You could just float the plastic under the front, and they were coming out, and you were watching them dart out just in little schools, and you're just winding up on fish, it was just a good day's fishing. I think we turned over probably 20 to 30 fish each the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a good day all around by both of us. But yeah, I was lucky. I think I pulled a 36, a 35, and a 34. They're only tip. And I was pretty surprised that it's what they weighed. They had big heads on them, and they were sort of chunky, but I thought I had maybe sort of probably 1.7 if I was lucky.
Okay. Well, you would have been pleasantly surprised.
I was pumped.
Fair enough. And where were you overnight, mate? What position were you in overnight?
Oh, I was in second.
Second.
I was in second. Sitting in second overnight behind David.
Yeah.
When he pulled that absolute unicorn fish.
He did.
Yeah. That's an ultimate fish, that one. That's pretty cool to see.
Definitely up there. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
So Sunday, mate, tell us how your day went. You probably got sore legs. The weather was much the same.
Yeah, sore legs. Weather was completely flipped on its head, and the bites were completely different.
Right. Okay.
Sort of did the same run as the day before. Didn't really find any fish until about 8 o'clock, I think it was. I got dusted a couple of times early. I knew when the cleaner water started pushing in, it was going to be a better bite. But I persisted on a few pontoons that worked for me where I pulled 2 good fish on the day one. So I went there sort of first up. I got dusted twice early, had to pull myself together because I was a bit frustrated after that. So then I pushed down even further. I think I had 1 fish in the bag. I pushed all the way down to the casino.
Really? That's a long way.
Yeah. So we got down to there, and then I was like, bugger it. We'll push down into clean water. And as soon as we did, it boded well for both of us. So I pulled a 33 as soon as we got into the clean water, tip, and then a couple of 30s. So I was a bit happier with that I had something to build off.
Yeah.
But the fish just weren't down sort of in that back loop where I like fishing all the way down there. I think Jack got lucky, pulled a couple of 35s, but I just wasn't getting the bites at all.
Right.
Couldn't get them off the front of the pontoons. They were a bit more skittish completely. So with a bit of frustration, I turned back around and we came back out of that back section up past into the main Narang again at about 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about, so same as the day before, we're about an hour and a half away.
Ouch.
And I wasn't very happy at all. I knew I only had probably 1.2. I needed to find some fish. So I had a 33, but skinny, and then, the 2 30s. So I thought, bugger it, I'll beeline it back to where I went in the morning, where I got dusted.
Yep.
And I knew I had about 15 to 20 minutes to hit those sort of pontoons along there. And I pumped my legs as hard as I could. I got there, 3 casts, and I had 334 tippers.
Oh, nice.
2 off one pontoon and 1 on the next one up. I had a few more casts as I kept moving up through the pontoons, and I had caught probably 4 more fish, and they were all around the same size, all at 34, 33. I mean, I was kicking myself I didn't go there an hour earlier because I had to leave them biting and just beeline it home. Yeah, so I kind of got lucky in the end that I went back. I kept my cool and I got some fish in my bag, but it wasn't looking pretty at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, mate. That's a great effort, man.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I switched up lures too when I went back to the pontoons. I went to the aqua. I was just throwing the salt and pepper aqua.
Okay. So on a worm hook or on a jig head?
On a jig head, I threw them on a 128 just because the water was pumping so hard. I wanted to be able to get it down and get them something because you definitely could have cranked most of those pontoons, but I found you could just work them a lot better with a plastic, and they were chasing. So when I noticed they were really chasing out with a slightly heavier jig head, they were watching it skip in, and I could see them hear it and turn and chase down. So when I was throwing the worm hook earlier in the morning, they were sort of looking at it and just leaving it alone.
Sure.
And soon as I went to the more flowing water with the slightly heavier, they wanted to sort of fight over who was getting it first, and got a heap more bites. So
yeah. So it sounds like the quicker drop was important there for whatever reason.
Know why? There's no rhyme or reason to it. They just sort of turned a bit more on them, and I don't know. It might have gave them less chance to think about it as well. So they were just sort of more of a reaction bite than just seeing something just sort of waft past them.
Exactly. And mate, I'm sure you were well pleased when the weights went on the scoreboard and you were sort of 60 grams ahead of Jack.
Oh, that was a great feeling. So the good part about Chris was too on the day, he got me up doing the bump tubs. So I had to stand there and watch everyone's fish coming in and just watching my name up the top, and it sat there. And then Jack walked up and I just pipped him by 50, 60 grams.
Yeah.
That was a win.
Yep.
I felt pretty good. There was only about 3 or 4 guys sort of way in. And then I watched Rogan walk up and I went, oh, yeah, that's the winning bag.
Yeah.
As soon as those boys walked up, I was like, yeah. And he's like, I think it's out of us too. And I was like, it definitely is.
Yeah.
But they were the last 2. And I was like, that's sweet. I've got a podium. I've got some points. And I was happy as.
Exactly. And mate, it was a great result anyway. And you're only 210 grams off the winning place. So, yeah, really super competitive.
Yeah, it was only like just a decent fish here or there. And I could have gave him a bit of a run. Like I always knew Rogan was going to come in with a bag. When I heard he struggled for most of the day, I was quite surprised. But then for a guy like him to pull those fish late in the day, that's something he's really good at.
Exactly. All right, mate. I think that's a pretty good rundown of the fishing. Mate, tell us, apart from bragging rights, what you get to take home for your third place?
The trophy that's now sitting in front of our wedding photos at the moment on the mantelpiece.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's the main one. We got a good little goodie bag there that I'm actually yet to go through, but generally there's always a swag of lures in there from all the sponsors that will be going straight in my bag. And I think I got like $620, that's the fuel money for the big cruiser and probably deposit for the wife's car that I think she's just bought. So that money's already gone.
Well, there you go, mate. There you go. Well, this is a good thing. Oh, there you go. All right, mate. I reckon that's a great rundown of all of that. Before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to say thank you to?
Oh, just the general, just fellas like yourself that just make it a good weekend. I just enjoy it. Chris and all the boys at Hobie throwing an amazing event. I think no one can really have a bad story at a Hobie event. It's just a blast every time we go. The guys make it an awesome time. So, yeah, Adam, obviously, from fishing.com, I put in an order usually at midday and I get them the following day by the time I get home from work, and it's brilliant.
How good is that?
He's always good, and he always leaves you a nice love letter in there as well.
Does he?
Oh, yeah, he gets some interesting ones. And what I should get is everyone who's ordering anything from him, if you want the baby vibes, make sure you get him to rig him. He's the favourite thing to do.
Yeah, fair enough. You heard it here first. Just out of interest, mate, have you tried the cockle ones?
I have a bag of 10 and I haven't yet. I I've got to rig them up, and I can't wait to use them. I think they're going to get a big run at Foster, and definitely down at Malakuta. I'll have probably one of each colour tied on for those both events because they look pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. I'm liking the new colour. All right, mate. We are going to leave it there, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I will see you at Foster.
Yeah, mate. Done. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, mate. Okay, fishing.com.au, your one-stop bream lure and tackle shop. Pick up the latest tackle, including Muscle Vibes, Cranker Crabs, OSP bent minnows, Z-Man plastics, Eco Gear lures, and Daiwa rods, reels, and tackle. Same-day shipping. Shop where the world champion, the Australian champion, and the current ABT champion shops. Fishing.com.au, online or in-store at shop 18/29 Kiora Road, Miranda. All right, so I jumped on the fishing.com.au page, and what they've got up at the moment as one of their promotions is a Daiwa Pro Double Clutch IZM Limited Edition Colour Garfish. So this thing does look like a garfish. It's pre-order only at the moment. I've often wondered, like, the bream must be smashing garfish from time to time, and this one looks exactly like one. So that's something you're into, whether you're chasing bream or probably some flathead are going to like this. Jump on and get yourself a pre-order and get one of those in your kit, fishing.com.au. Okay, so up next I have last year's winner from the Gold Coast round. In second place, he dropped 2 fish for 1.79 kilos, backed it up on day 2 with 1.89, giving him 6 fish for 3.68. And second place in this year's event, I've got Gareth Goodhue. Welcome back to the show, mate.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, no worries at all. Mate, and like we chatted before, and mate, it's been about a year since we talked about this.
It has been, yeah, pretty much.
And so close. Like, I think you're 80 grams off the lead, which is just not a very big upgrade.
Nah, Luke and I were there sitting at the bump tub deciding who was going to go last. I'm like, nah, I think you've got it, mate. So let him go last.
Yeah, fair enough. And speaking to Luke, you like the listeners will have to hang around and listen, but it very nearly went the other way.
No, it was a close one. It definitely was.
All right. So, mate, let's get into the competition. So, did you get a chance to get down there and have a pre-fish on the Friday or leading up to the event?
No, I haven't actually fished on the Gold Coast since the Hobie round last year down there.
Right. Okay. So, basically, you're running on, I guess, last year's information and instinct and launching into this comp, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much just working on what I did last year and what I've done in times before that when we've been out fishing down there, just general knowledge that I have of the area.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, with that in mind, let's start with what you rigged up with and which direction you headed.
Yeah, well, I rigged up 4 rods. That's all I took on the day. I had 2 rigged with a 132 Gold Crabby, a 1/8 Gold Crabby, and then 2 cams and tinies, 1 tune to swim left, 1 tune to swim right. I took off from the beach there and we headed south underneath Sundale. And then I just kept going and hit the verse, a lot of pontoons, and tried to see like what was working, what was active on the day.
Okay. And how'd you go for getting your first fish? Did it take a while or did you get straight into them?
It took a little while, unfortunately. I think because the tides we had were kind of not in my favour.
Sure.
But probably an hour or so to get my first fish. And then after that, probably another couple of hours till I got my second. And then the third came pretty quickly after that.
Right. Okay. So relatively slow start. What sort of sizes were you picking up in the initial stages?
First couple weren't too bad. They're in the 30s, but a lot of when I was cranking the cams and tinies, I was finding a lot more of the 25, 26 centimeter tippers were coming at it and attacking that. So kind of after that, decided to switch up more to the Gold Crabbies that I found they were attracting the bigger fish that were coming out and getting them.
Okay. So let's start with the cams. And how do you approach a wall for a bit of structure or a pontoon? How do you attack it?
I kind of try to start a couple meters out from it and then get my cast as far up the other end as I can and then kind of maneuver myself into it. So the lure is tuned to swim in the direction in which the pontoon is to me. So I can kind of then get it to swim underneath as far as possible and try to lure out any fish that are in there.
Yeah.
So kind of it's by starting away. If you get that cast and the wind hits you or something like that, you've got the ability to flick the rod and get it away from that pontoon and avoid a snag.
Yeah. Okay. And tuning the lure, so you're just bending the toe point in the direction you want it to head?
Yeah, just bend the toe point, give it a little flick out next to you, drag it back, just make sure it's not rolling too much. And then with the currents, depending on what they're doing, you've just got to work out what that retrieval speed has to be to stop the lure from just barrel rolling in the water.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can be, super, super slow just because the current's so strong. It's actually putting a lot of pressure against it already. So it needs barely any movement, but it does the action necessary to entice the fish out.
And do you find that getting the lure under the pontoon gets you far more fish than it does if one just swimming down the face?
100%, 100%. Because you on the Gold Coast especially, you notice if you sit back a distance and watch the pontoons, especially in the light, you can see the fish. You'll see the ones feeding on the side, but there's always bigger fish sitting underneath that you can kind of see in the shadows and things like that. Like if you look in the gaps between pontoons, you'll see a lot of fish sometimes sitting under there feeding. So if you can get it under to those bigger fish, then better chance of getting them coming out.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So you started off slowly. Now I can't remember. Did we start getting them on the gulps or were they tiny cams in?
First couple came on the gulps, and then so I kind of I worked my way past and got myself down to the Nerang where the water was flowing a lot quicker, and then I was kind of using the camsons more there, but then noticed there's just so many small fish attacking it. You could see the bigger ones following them, but they just weren't hitting. So at least doing that, I knew the fish were there.
Yeah.
So I was just waiting for the bigger ones to come on.
Okay. And how'd you go about changing it up to get the bigger bites?
I just changed through my weights. So it was 132s, 112s, 116s, things like that. Just trying to see what zone I had to get that lure in to see where the fish were actually going to come out and get it. And then obviously I like to work the pontoon. If I need to, I'll cast 2 meters up from the pontoon, running a 132, giving it time to sink just low enough to drift underneath the pontoons as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you got your first couple, and it sounds like you filled a bag. How'd you go for upgrades throughout the day?
On day one, it was probably only pulled one upgrade. On day one, it was a lot tougher. I kind of had an idea and a plan that I wanted to do, but I kind of spent too long down the back in the Nerang. I kind of on the way back thinking I'd have more time, but not realizing how much stronger that current was going to be to fight back. So it took me a bit longer to get to where I wanted to, but I saw all the fish that I wanted to hit on the way back to the start line. So I knew on day two I had to allow more time for myself.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. All right. How long do you reckon it took you to paddle back?
Well, I know to get up there on day one, on day two, I didn't make my first cast for almost an hour and a half. So it was probably a solid hour and a half to 2 hours to get back.
Yeah. So that's a long haul, and would have made you pretty sore, I'd imagine.
Oh no, legs actually came up good, so I don't really have too many issues with that, covering distance or speed in the kayak. So I kind of just set myself into a groove and then just maintain it.
Yeah, nice. All right, cool. So anyway, Saturday, look, you dropped 1.79 on the scales. Would have had you in maybe fourth place?
Sixth place. Yep, same as last year, sixth place on day one.
Oh, you were looking good then.
That's what I thought.
Fair enough.
I knew I was in contention in that position with what the other bags that popped up. So
yeah, that's right. You're always only one good kicker away from jumping a bunch of people. So
that's it.
All right. Day 2 came out on the Sunday. Did you change your plan up too much, or what was in your mind?
So on day 2, I went the same direction, but instead of stopping and fishing those first few pontoons that I like to fish, I knew from day 1 that they just weren't really producing. So I headed deep straight down to the back of the Nerang, and kind of worked that water, because even up there, once it's dead low, the water is still running through there quite fast, and there's a lot of boat traffic as well. So you've got like swell coming off the boat, slapping against the pontoons, and all the jet skis flying around there. It just causes a lot of noise, and the fish don't seem to be as scared of committing to the bite, because they're so used to the noise and everything going on. So I kind of headed up there, worked through that section, got the cams and tinies out, and pretty much second, third cast, I started catching fish. Probably had a bag of 26s within half an hour of being there. And then, it was just working my way up through that.
Okay. All right. Did you notice, you obviously moved on past your initial position. Was there much difference in the bites from day 1 to day 2?
Not really as much. I did find a few of the bigger fish started coming on with the cams and tinies. I did get a couple good 34s, things like that. But it's kind of I was kind of setting myself up, because I wanted to get up there, get my bag that I knew I could get, and then actually work my way back to the front where I like to fish. Because I kind of left myself probably 3 hours this time to allow myself to get all the way back, and then give me probably an hour or so of fishing down there, which then that produced all my upgrades.
Right. Okay. So good plan at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Like I said, on day 1, I cruised past, saw where I wanted to fish, saw the fish sitting there. There was just there was just like 20, 30 fish sitting on a pontoon. There was one point where I just cast in a gulp crabby, watched the fish all hit it, and waited, loaded up the rod, and it was I think it was a 640 grammer came straight out, so
Nice.
wasn't too bad.
Very good. Very good. So you're on your way back, you loaded up on the fish a little bit.
Yeah.
What about drop fish? Did you miss any for the 2 days?
Not really. There was probably a couple that maybe, but they didn't really feel like heavy fish though, so it didn't really bother me. Didn't put me off. All the big fish really at that last day on the way back, they were just throwing the gulp crabbies in, and they were just jumping on top of them. There was just that many there feeding, but it was kind of good. I left it so late that everyone else was making their run back to the start line.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of had my plan at the under Sundale Bridge have by allow myself 30 minutes to get back to the ramp, and I knew I'd be home clear.
Yeah, nice. Now we did speak before we hit record, and you were using a brand of jig heads that I'm not that familiar with. Do you want to tell me what that's about?
Yes, I've been using a sickle jig head from Simon Carter. So instead of them being more of a rounded generic hook shape, they've got more of like a J and a point to the bottom of them. So they kind of just when you set that hook, they don't rock around as much. They're a very sharp, sticky hook. They're very thin gauge, so they do bend quite easily. But if you get a bit of a bend, you can straighten them up, and they still work just as effectively, I find.
Sure.
Yes, Simon just makes them at home up on the sunny coast there, and sends them out to us, looks after us boys, and they do the job. I use them on snapper, I use them on cod, I use them on everything. So,
right. And the shape of the hook, because anyone that doesn't know, it's got it like a little, instead of being a round bend in the bottom, it's got, I don't know, it's got a more of a flattened sides on it. Would that be a good way of explaining it?
Yeah, I guess you say the sides are flattened and it goes almost to a rounded point.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you think if you set the hook and if you get the part of the fish's mouth down into the bottom of that hook, do you reckon it prevents them from straightening a bit?
Oh, well and truly, definitely does. Because of the shape of it and because they're not rocking as much, they don't really swing and get back onto the tip, which can pull the hook straight. So, yeah, I mean, I've been throwing the 132 size ones, and I've landed like 80 centimeter snapper in the bay on them. So
nice.
They're a very thin gauge, but they're a very strong hook in the same sense. If you get it in that right spot, then yeah, it's not getting off.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So in terms of the fishing, so you come back, you headed back, you had a bit of a late charge, I guess. Was that the end of the story, or did you get any more late upgrades after that?
It was pretty much as I got that first one, the last one I told you about. After that, it was pretty much the rest of it. It was just upgrade the whole way back.
Really?
So yeah, I kind of had a bag with probably a couple 27s and a 34 in it. And then on the way back, it was a couple 36s, a 38, 39s, all around that, all tippers, all around that sort of size. So
yeah,
they were really turning on. I reckon if I had another hour or so there, could have got a much bigger bag. But that's fishing, and we've got those time allocations and we work through them.
Yeah, that's right. And look, in hindsight, do you think you should have moved down the river earlier? Like if you could do it again?
I think on day one, definitely. Day two, I think I kind of came right at the right time.
Yeah.
Because day one, definitely. If I had to come back an hour earlier, I could have done the same thing, and could have been finishing in a different position, but I didn't, and that's on me at the end of the day. So
no, and that's fair, and that's more to say that sometimes I think the timing has got to be perfect, and if you're in the right spot at the right time, you're going to brain them. And it sounds like that was happening.
Yeah, you just got to remember to back yourself as well, I think.
Yeah, very good. All right, mate, for the competition, what sort of lines and leaders were you running?
I've been running the new Daiwa Expedition. So I've been running that in a 12-pound, and leaders, I'm running the Daiwa fluorocarbons just in 6-pound leaders, and then 2 of the reels straight through fluorocarbon 6-pound from Daiwa as well.
Right. Okay. Very cool. Which ones are you casting the tiny Camsons on straight through?
Yeah, working those on straight through, and then using the braid just to try and, really muscle the fish out from around the poles and stuff like that on the braid.
On the braid. Nice.
I just like the sensitivity as well, I guess, with the braid. Because you're not always in contact with it, sometimes in the jig head, you can really still feel it and notice the little ticks in the line, whereas obviously on fluoro, when you're constantly rolling the cranks, you can kind of see what it's doing at the same time. So
yeah, 100%. Well, anyway, you ended up coming back. You did the long paddle back. It was a good way in because we all kind of knew that you and Luke were neck and neck, and Mitch Madison came through quite strong as well in the initial part of the way in. But yeah, how was the way in for you?
Well, nerve-wracking. I thought I possibly had it again. Then me and Luke went for a walk down and had a look at our fish, and I was like, oh, I think I've got it. And then I looked at the weights from the day before again, and I misjudged what Luke got the day before. So I'm like, oh, nah, I think you've got it, buddy. But end of the day, I was just excited to, qualify for the Australian title. So that's what I was down there to do.
Yeah. Oh, mate. Exactly. And mate, first, second, third, anywhere in those positions, you've done very, very well. To back it up would have been awesome. But second is pretty good too.
Yeah, no, still definitely happy.
Fair enough. All right, mate. For second place, what did you get to take home? Do you remember?
I think it was around $895 in cash, and then a selection of lures and a backpack and hats from TT.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did see him bring the backpacks out. That's very cool.
Yeah, I think they're a bit of like a tackle sling.
Yeah, it looked good. It was the TT round.
It was.
And also, like you said, the spot in the AC is also a much coveted thing.
Yeah, correct. That's what I was chasing. Since having the little fella last year, I haven't really been able. I fished Tassie for the Hobie rounds, and then other than that, I haven't really been able to do any others this year. Life's just been tied up with family commitments. So, this is my last chance. So I'll give it everything and go from there.
Fair enough. All right, mate. Well, one last thing before we shoot off. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Definitely. So I've got obviously Gordon from Sunstate Water Sports. He looks after me. He's always good to go down and have a chat to. I've got Simon Carter from Sharp Point Jig Heads, Dave Swinley from Cuss Fab, and Andrew from Estuary Clothing Co. He looks after us as well.
Oh, nice. That's a good little crew you got going on there.
Yeah, all kind of Aussie-made stuff, really.
Very good. All right, mate. Well, look, I want to say congratulations for that again. And yeah, we'll see you hopefully at the AC.
Sounds good, mate. I'll hopefully see you down there.
No worries. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
All right. If you're in the market for a new fishing kayak or looking to make some upgrades to your existing kayak or possibly looking at fishing kayak fishing tournaments, then HWS is the place to go. They have a full range of Hobie kayaks, stock the latest kayak accessories, and are really dialed in when it comes to the best kayak fishing for the casual fisher and the tournament angler. hws.com.au, online or in-store at Shop 3/638 Pacific Highway, Belmont. James offers free delivery on Hobie kayaks across all Greater Sydney, Central Coast and Hunter. So the question is, why would you go and see James? Well, James is one of the guys who attends, well, not all the rounds because he's got a young family, but he does attend a lot of rounds. And he's definitely very, very hands-on when anyone needs something fixed or what have you. He has a really, really detailed, in-depth knowledge of the kayak, of the product itself, and has a good idea of what we need as tournament anglers. So if you're a tournament angler and you're fishing out of a kayak, I don't think there's a better place to go. hws.com.au. All right. And in first place, we have an angler dropping 1.92 kilos on the Saturday, backing it up with 1.84 kilos on the Sunday, giving him a total of 6 fish for 3.76 kilos and the win. I've got Luke Rogan. Welcome back, mate.
Hey, Deethy. It's nice to be back, mate.
Mate, what a cracking round that was for you, mate. You'd be cheering.
I was. I've been trying to win a Gold Coast round for years now, and it's finally come together.
That's it. And, mate, it was an interesting weigh-in because Gareth, who won it last year, was like, he was looking good, I thought he might get it, but you end up taking him out.
Yeah, well, my second day 2 wasn't nowhere near what my day 1 was, but, I literally caught my biggest fish, which was I think it was a 39, literally in my second last cast of the day.
Wow.
Otherwise, I was coming back with 231 forkers.
Wow, big difference.
Yep.
Big difference. Well, there you go. All right, let's get into it, mate. On the Friday, mate, did you get a chance to get out there and have a bit of a cast?
Yeah, I just went for a bit of a poke around, and I had a look in the areas that I wanted to go to, but there was a lot of people sort of fishing around the sort of canal, pontoon sort of areas. They were pre-fishing around there, so I was like, I just went away from there, and then I just went to a little deep spot that I sort of know that sometimes fires at this time of year, and I paddled over it and went wow, and then kept paddling.
Right. Okay, explain the wow, mate.
Oh, just the sound just lit up, and I've been fishing that area for a long time now, and I know that you can sort of tell the difference between them and tailor these days, between bream and tailor, I should say.
Yeah.
But there was just so much bait fish around too on pre-fish. Like it was nuts. There was tailor busting up on the flats and bream. There was so many bream on the flats, like because there's just so much bait. That was my like backup plan, is to hit the flats if the deep fish didn't want to bite. So
All right. So you saw some fish in the deep. Oh, you had some fish on the flats. How'd you set yourself up for day one? Sort of lures were you running?
well, I had all sorts of things tied on. I'd crank crabs, I had some plastics, I've got some OSP plastics that I throw around that I like to use, but nothing sort of worked except for the crab. And I was just kind of like, this is going to be a slog of a day, because I started at the bridge at Sovereign Island there, and I think it was me and another guy there, and then two other guys rocked up and fished the same, like literally opposite to me. And I was like, you know what, this is not going to happen for me. So I kept moving. I moved further up into the canal system, seen a few other boys, but there wasn't too many people down Sovereign Island. So
No, it's a hike.
yeah, it is. And I just fished a few pontoons that I know sort of on the outside stretch, and I caught three, probably. I think my biggest was a 33 forker, 31 forker, and like a 29 forker in three pontoons. And I was like, and that was just crankbaiting. I was throwing, what was I throwing? And I was throwing a few different things around that day, but I was throwing little crankbaits around, and I lost a couple. But then I thought, well, I was just waiting for the tide to change, and then when that tide changed, I went out and see if them fish were deep again. And when I went out there, I was like, started throwing plastic around, and I didn't want to eat it. They didn't want to eat it. And then I was like, I chucked a blade, I thought, little black blade's they're gonna eat it, right? Nah. So I probably spent 2 hours out there just throwing around, catching nothing. And then I was like, why didn't I throw a crank crab? So I chucked a crank crab out, hit the bottom, and I was on. And it was a big fish. And I was like, oh crap, this is cool. And then landed that, upgraded one of my other ones. I think I upgraded a 39 forker. And then, not a 39, a 29 forker with that bigger fish. That was actually my biggest fish for the day. And then I just kept throwing the crab around, and then I changed colours on the crab, and I got another one. I was like, this is interesting. I was like, righto.
Okay.
And then the tide started to pick up, got a little bit faster, and then I just started to get one after another. And I reckon there must have been a lot of fish in the school that were all the same size. They were around about that 33, 34 fork sort of size. Because I reckon I caught about, as soon as that tide started running,
Wow.
I just started catching consistently that size. And that was it, like all day. And I was like, I need to try and catch bigger ones. So I started throwing around a big cranky crab, but they didn't want to eat that. I persisted with that for a solid hour and a half, because I was like, no, they'll eat it. Just waiting for a big one to come along, but they didn't want to eat it. And then I actually left them, because I thought, Luke, what are you doing? You've just caught like 30 or 40 good bream. Like, at that stage I had a good bag. I think I had a 37 fork, a 35 fork, and a 34 fork, something like that. So it was a decent bag. I actually thought I was coming in with like high twos, to tell you the honest truth, but they weren't real fat. And then that's when I was like, well, I still had like an hour and a half to go. So I went into one of the canals that I like to fish, and there's a lot of there's one particular sort of spot that's got some running water on it. And same deal. I was like, well, they like crab out there. So I chucked the crab in there, and I got smoked like 3 times in a row. And I was like, what the hell? Like, by that stage, it was time to head back. And I was like, well, I've got a good bag. I'm happy with that. So I started the long voyage back. It took me like an hour and 40 minutes. It's mint.
Yeah, it's a hike from up there. Mate, a couple of questions with the crabs. So first of all, you were just bouncing them along the bottom. Is that about right?
Pretty much. I was dead sticking them a lot, to tell you the honest truth.
Yeah. The colours, what colours were you rotating through?
Well, I got a couple there that I painted. They're like paint them like a camo-y sort of colour. They liked that one. That's what I caught my biggest one on. And then after that, they love the UV one.
Okay.
The UV one was just dynamite. So it wasn't until I ran out of them that I started throwing other colours. But for some reason, they wanted that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It was like, I would have thought a lightly presentated plastic would have got eaten over the crank crab. But I even chucked a gulp on just to see if they'll eat it. They didn't want to eat that, even not even dead stick. So it was really weird.
That's weird.
Yep.
And given the number of fish that you said you caught, why you wouldn't have got them on a plastic, unless maybe they just turned on. Maybe they were shut down. And
Well, I threw a crabby. You know what I mean? Like, I would have thought they would have eaten a camo crabby for sure if they're going to eat a crank crab. But I don't know. It was really weird. But I think that's just bream fishing, though. Sometimes, like, especially like, when you're lake fishing for bream, like down your ways, it's kind of like if they're deep and you can see them, you've just got to keep it there in their face, or get it in their face and keep it there. If you keep moving it too much, it just, I don't know if it spooks them, or if maybe they just sit there and look at it for a while, and then when you move it a tiny little bit, they just go, ooh, and eat it. I'm not sure. But
yeah. Okay.
would have been nice to have a camera under the water, that's for sure.
Definitely. All right, mate. So you made the long paddle back, which I'm sure you enjoyed.
Yeah.
What'd you end up weighing? You end up weighing 1.92, I think, which I think had you in third place behind Mitch and David Shanahan. David Shanahan came over the top with 2.26.
Mm.
So, yeah. Day 2, mate. What was your plan for day 2 leading in?
Yeah, my plan for day 2 was to not go all the way to Sovereign again.
Right, okay.
It just killed me on the way back because it was like wind and tide. I had wind pushing against me and tide the whole way. But obviously I wasn't the only one. But I ended up just pulling the pin, and I said, nah, I've got to do it. I know the fish are there, so I've just got to head down there again. So I made the voyage all the way down there again, and I went straight back to them deep fish. I shouldn't have. I should have waited for the tide, but I went back there and they weren't there. And I was just like, damn it.
Wow.
The chances of them moving, if they were there on pre-fish, they were there on day 1 and then day 2. So what I did is I was like, well, I went and fished all sort of fair bunch of pontoons on the outside of Sovereign Island just to see if I could catch some fish. And I actually got my bag after about 2 hours.
Okay.
But by that stage, tide was probably around about the same as day 1.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, I'm going to go back out to that deep spot again, and I just sanded around for a little while. And I ended up finding them probably 100 meters away from where they were on the day 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, how'd you find them? Did you find them by catching them, or did you find them by seeing them?
Nah, but I was just sanding around. Didn't even fish until I found them.
Mm-hmm.
I just found them on side scan and then went over to them. And then, yeah, I didn't fish till I found them. So,
okay.
And they'd actually moved from the deep, actually sort of more towards Sovereign Island, like the outside of Sovereign Island as well. So I thought, oh, this is going to be good because the outside structure and weed's going to they'll probably be on that as well, but they weren't.
Okay.
I think I had 2 fish at that stage. I don't think I caught my third one.
Yeah.
And they're only like 31 forkers, and I was like, oh shit, like I need to do something here. So I just kept fishing away, same deal, throwing crank crabs. But because they were closer to the structure and not out as wide as they were on day 1, like on day 1, everything I hooked, I landed, like everything.
Really? Okay.
And for some reason on day 2, everything that I hooked that was big just took me into the structure, and I had nothing. And I was using 8-pound leader. I think I had 8 on one rod and I had 14 leader on the other rod. And I'm running Torre. I think it's 12-pound Torre on both of them rods.
Wow.
So, and I can pull on them rods. Like that's why I was using them. And they just dusted me.
Wow.
But yeah, I probably lost about probably 5 crank crabs to 5 really good fish just in the structure. I don't know. They were everything I hooked and caught was fighting really well. It was real angry. So it was good fishing, but
yeah. But you want to put them in the well rather than let them go back to their home.
That's right. Especially when they've got their crab in your mouth. And like,
that's right.
I think at that stage the media boat came and seen me, and I was like, oh, here we go. Like I'm trying, they've sort of just started to bite, and they come in. We had a chat for a little while. I didn't have much at that stage, so I was a bit sort of like, all right, guys, come back later. Yeah. So they left me alone, but literally as they left, they just turned on again.
Really?
Yep. I was like, oh, geez, the media boat mojo is actually a thing.
Yep, it really is.
There's a first version. Yeah, so I just continued on along sort of that wall, and I was like finding fish out deep, casting at them, and like the fishing was nowhere near as good as day one, but I was hooking a lot bigger fish. Like on the outside of Sovereign, there's actually some like quite big structure, and they were literally pulling me into that, and I couldn't do anything about it. Like there was one stage there, I think it might have been the third fish that I lost. I was so deep, it sucked me right in, like it pulled me right in, and I'd free spooled it, and I went right underneath the structure. Like good thing about having a kayak is you can go under there. With the boat, you can't do that. If it takes you in there, it's gone. But I went right in there, and they've got all these big super cruisers cruising past, and I'm like trying not to die inside this structure. And I got it right to the edge of the kayak, and I was just about to net it, and the wave come through, and I had to like put my leg out to stop myself from smashing against like a wall, and it just fell off. And I was like,
"Yep,
damn."
Oh,
And I just kept fishing, and then I just couldn't catch anything big like the day before. And I was like, here we go. And then I was like, well, I've got 10 minutes to go. So I thought, well, I'll just fish the structure on the outside of Sovereign there. And I was like, I cruised along. There's probably 10 of these dock-looking things, and I just fished. And then I caught another one, probably the same size, about 31 fork. And I was like, this is not my day today. And I was like, all right, it's about to head back. And I just put one last ditch effort cast in, or probably second last actually. And boom, I got a 39, and I was pretty chuffed about that. I was like, wow, I might actually still be in it. But then I realized I still have to get back on time. So at that stage, I was like, well, I put that in the whale, and I thought, well, I've got to fish the last, because there was one more dock, and I chucked it out, hooked another fish like straight away. As soon as it hit the bottom on a crab, I was on, and it took me in, and I went in with it, and I probably tussled around with it for at least 5 minutes, I reckon, trying to get it out of there. Because they just wrap you around everything. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to free spool it, go in there, tighten it again, hope they didn't damage your leader. But anyways, I lost that crab, and I went, all right, that's me done. It's time to paddle back. Yeah, that was my day.
How was the pedal back? Was it a super hard pedal?
It was 2 times as hard as day one. The wind had picked up, and the current and the boats that were on the water, it was genuinely shocking. Like I literally was telling myself, I'm never doing that again. I'm never paddling again in the kayak.
Yep. But mate, the Sunday was hectic on the water.
Oh yeah.
Like it was a next level from the Saturday just in terms of general traffic. It was insane.
Well, I think that's mainly what it was, because like when you get them big boats coming through like consecutively, like I'm in a PA and I call it the battleship because I put that thing through everything. I'm not scared, but the problem is they're so big that you can't even pedal.
Yep.
So all your momentum. So I was doing about 6.5, 7 knots back, and that was me really steaming. Like I was putting the herd on, trying to get back in time, and you're just like pedaling in midair when there's waves come through. Like you're not doing it. You're not going anywhere. You go from 6 or 7 knots to 2.
Yep.
And then you got to start again.
And then start again.
Yep. And it was just back and forwards, back and forwards, back and forwards. So I got to a stage where I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. But I was like, in my head, I was like, nah, keep pedaling.
Yeah, go harder.
That's pretty much what I did. I was like, nah, pulled that extra steam out and just sent it. So made it back with 2 or 3 minutes to spare. So
that's enough.
Sure. That's it. That's all I needed.
Yeah. All right. So it sounds to me that you got a couple of fish on day one on cranks, and then most of your fish then came on crabs. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Your lines and leaders, you sort of had anywhere from sort of 8 to 14 pound. Is that pretty much what you're running?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm running all Torre lines and leaders.
Yep.
I love that stuff. It's so good. Like some of the fish that I would have lost on, you'd think, sometimes you think to yourself, oh, there's no way I'm getting that back, and you somehow get it back. It's pretty tough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you run any scent on your lures?
I was running crab scent, like what's a Z-Man one? Well, not Z-Man,
Procure?
Yeah, Procure crab scent. I was throwing that on day one. That seemed to be working, but they didn't want it on day 2. So I just went back to the old S-Factor.
Okay.
I was just smothering an S-Factor, and that did the job.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. I remember speaking to Scotto James out of Tasmania, and he was saying down there that often they'll either take a gulp some sort of gulp, or they'll take S Factor. They're usually on one or the other. So,
well, I found that with black bream as well. Like all my years of catching black bream, like growing up, like I think when S Factor first came out, it was like some days they want no scent. They won't touch it if you put scent on. Then other days you smother it in it and they're all over it. I don't know. It's real weird.
yeah, that's how he described it. Okay, cool. All right. So, mate, it was a good weigh-in, like, because Mitch obviously got a good bag and you're all very close, and Gareth was very close.
Yeah.
How did you go through the weigh-in? I think you were last to weigh in, maybe, or last in the group anyway.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Gareth's like, I'm going to weigh in because first thing, as soon as I pulled up, he comes running over and he's like, I want to look in your live well. I'm like, all right. He had a look and he's like, I think I've got you. And I went over to his and looked in his. I was like, I'm like, you've got consistency, but I've got one big fish in there that's probably nudging a kilo. And he's like, but that's all it took was that. If I didn't get that kicker, he would have had me. So
yeah, that's right. Either way, mate, you came out on top and took a first for the season, which is awesome. Mate, tell me, what did you get to take home for first place? Do you remember?
I think I took home 1,850.
1835.
Or 1835, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, no.
Not bad for a couple of days fishing.
Yeah, it's great for a couple of days fishing. How close is that your local?
Nah, it's probably about an hour away. I'm up from Brizzy.
Yeah, still pretty close.
Yeah, still pretty close. Like we do all the local tournaments down there, myself and Tyson, or myself, depending what's happening. But yeah.
Yeah, very good. All right, mate. I reckon that's a pretty good rundown of everything, mate. Before we shoot off, is anyone you want to say a thank you to or give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to thank Fish Tech Solutions. They actually sent me some new rods. They've got some new rods out. They're good. Like that's what I was using that weekend, and they've got a new skeleton grip out. So I think people will really like that because it's more grippy. I don't know, it's the same sort of carbon fiber, but it's got this like scallop out, and no, I'm really, really liking them. And the particular ones they sent me actually longer versions too. So I've never really thrown longer versions, but after listening to you guys saying you're using longer rods and stuff, I thought I'll give it a crack. And I didn't realize how far I can throw a crankbait with a 7-foot rod, 7 foot. I don't even know what it is, 7'6", I think it is. You can really punch a crank into the breeze with that. So it's really good.
Yeah. Are they the rods where they're all carbon all the way through? They haven't got a proper, not a proper, but a different reel seat and handle?
Yeah, they've actually got a different reel seat on these ones as well, which I think that's what I mean. I reckon people will like them. They're way nicer in the hand, and they're such good rods. I don't know if you've ever picked one up, but
yeah, are they? What's the brand? What brand is it?
Edge. They're Edge rod.
It is Edge. Sorry, I thought it was. I just couldn't quite remember. Okay, so if someone wanted to go and have a look at one of these Edge rods, what are you holding?
The ones that I'm particularly got, or
yeah. What do you like?
My favourite one at the moment is the SCDSR 7.6. It's an extra fast finesse, 7'6", 4 to 10 pound. That's with the new skeleton grip. But it's so good. I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's very good. All right. In addition to Fish Tech, is anyone else you want to give a shout out to?
I also want to thank Sunstate Hobie for looking after me, and heaps of people. Just my wife for letting me do what I do. I'm not kayak fishing, I'm boat fishing. So,
very good. Very good. All right, mate. I think we'll leave it there. Look, I want to say congratulations for the event win, and mate, good luck in the AC, mate. That should be a good round.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that one. Should be good.
Yeah, and not ridiculously far for you.
No, that's just a drive. That's just an afternoon drive for me.
Exactly. All right, mate. We'll leave it there. Look, congratulations, and I'll talk to you again next time.
No worries, mate. Cheers.
All right, so there you have it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that one. Luke Rogan on a roll again. Good to see Gareth up the top, and closely followed by Mitch Madison, who once again did beat Jack Gammy. So there you go. Anyway, if you are looking for something more, definitely check out the Bream Fishing Project Collective. So you can have a look at that at brimfishingproject.supercast.com. So that's brimfishingproject.supercast.com. You can find the links I've posted them almost everywhere. Definitely go and check that out. We're going to building a close-knit community there. We're researching a whole lot of stuff, and hopefully over time, we're going to build another database, but on a smaller scale in terms of members. So you can log in. It's a tight-knit community, people communicating from all around the country, and we're going to do some great things there. So we look forward to having you along. Even if you just come and check it out for a month, just come check it out. If it's not for you, then you can definitely sign out of it, and it's all good, no harm, no foul. All right, I think I am going to leave it there for the moment. A lot of great shows coming up, a lot to record, so I look forward to talking to a lot of anglers. I look forward to seeing people at Malakuta. That is going to be hectic. And one more thing I want to start to promote for next year is I know the calendar hasn't been released, but I'm telling you, I think there's going to be a Bem River round next year for the Hobies. We're going to create another retro round. We're going to try and make this thing bigger than Ben-Hur. So if there's any round you're going to attend, set yourself up for that one. Don't know when it is because I haven't been told exactly, but I'm sure it's coming. So definitely look out for it. Hopefully, maybe by the time this is released, it'll be out. Anyway, look, it's been great talking. I will see you again next week on the Bream Fishing Project.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you were informed, inspired and entertained. If you were able to learn something or just enjoyed listening, please consider subscribing and rate us on your favourite podcasting platform.